Hey folks, well, the Leafs, they squeezed out a win in Calgary. It was sandwiched by lopsided losses to Edmonton and Vancouver. We're going to break it all down for you next, right here on the OZone.
You're in the offensive zone, your place for Leafs hockey.
Hey folks, welcome to the OZone. That's Coach. That's Katie. I'm the Diva. We're here to talk all things Leafs. Listen, I'm coming to you straight from the OZone HQ in downtown Toronto. Coach, where you at?
Hey, so I'm in the Texas headquarters down here. Take a look at this picture here, fellas. There's your 14U state champion Texas Tigers. We had our final this weekend. Yeah, good stuff. Look at that picture. That's a well-coached group, fellas. We rolled through. What a great group of kids. Peaked at the right time. We couldn't be happier about it.
That's fabulous. Congratulations, Coach. KD, how is the scene on the east side today?
I've been kidnapped. I'm in a downstairs apartment, but it's not going to stop me from doing the pod. So if I disappear halfway through, you'll know the reason why. But we're hanging in.
Hey, KD,
Okay.
Have you been taken? Because I could get Liam Neeson on the phone if you need him.
I know a guy with a very special set of skills. All right, folks, listen, before we get started, you know what to do. Subscribe, ring the bell. You'll never miss any content. Like, share the video. Helps broaden this audience we have. And also leave a comment. We're getting down to brass tacks here on the season. This is when it all matters, and this is when we need some direction from you. We love your questions. We answer whenever we can. Okay. So, while visiting Western Canada over the last 3 games, we saw some turmoil. I think that'll be the word of the day. Leafs used 3 different goaltenders. Went with 7D and 11 forwards. Lines were all over the place. We also had some injuries. Matthews banged up. O'Reilly and Vancouver, mercy, going to be out for a while, LTIR. All this resulted in a blowout loss to Edmonton, nail-biting win in Calgary, and then a very disappointing loss in Vancouver. KD, let's start with you. What'd you think of the past few games? What'd you like? What didn't you like?
Well, it's a stretch during the season, a Western swing that didn't go great. I personally don't mind the loss to Vancouver as badly as I dislike the loss to Edmonton. Edmonton, they were outclassed, out-hustled, outworked, out-hit. Those are a little more worrying to me. I thought the Vancouver game was a game that got away from them. I still thought they played well enough to win. A few breaks or little things here and there. Declining a penalty maybe would have worked. But, for the most part, I didn't mind it. I thought they actually played a fairly good game against Calgary team that had been scuffling but played really, really well against Boston, and Toronto played pretty well against them. Obviously, the injuries aren't great. Trying to assimilate all the thousands of D we have going, mixing and matching. So there's a lot going on with this team. I'm not overly concerned because I do think it's just a lull. Some injuries didn't help either, but I think for the most part, we're moving along. Like this is actually almost a tryout period right now over the next 10 games. Keefe's going to do different matchups, and we're going to try and figure out this decor. Now we're going to have to move up some young guys again in order to play. It's probably as good an injury as you're going to get on LTIR for O'Reilly. It's his finger. He will play in the playoffs. He will probably play before. He could probably play now if he needed to, but he doesn't. His legs will be fresh. His body will be fresh. His finger might be sore, but that's we'll take it. So for worst case scenario, this wasn't as worst case, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's certainly a glass half full way to look at it, and I think that's probably appropriate. Listen, it's worth noting Tavares got rocked early in last night's game. He stayed in the game, great. He won't play on Tuesday due to, I guess they say they're calling it an illness. We'll see. Matthews took a puck off the back of the knee, came back. Certainly didn't look like he could skate. Didn't like to come back on the turnover there when they were up a man. And then now O'Reilly's out. So, Coach, remember last week when we had an embarrassment of riches down the middle? Not so much anymore. What's going on? What's going on? What did you think about the last few games?
Yeah, well, we're going to put our depth to the test, aren't we, guys? So, KD, you mentioned that the O'Reilly injury isn't so bad because he can skate and stuff. You know, his hand, he's got time to heal that hand. What is worst case Ontario, I think, is 34, Matthews. Even before he took that shot off the inside of the knee, just something's not right, guys.
Yeah.
Something wasn't right, and he missed a few games, maybe 15 games ago, came back and was good and was starting to go. Remember the game, Buffalo game, and then the Seattle game, he was really rolling. But he was not great in Edmonton, wasn't a factor in Calgary, and really, you know, Devo, you said it, kind of mailed it in. And granted, some of that in the Vancouver game was him taking that shot. When he went down, I don't know about you guys, I was losing my mind. But, you know, maybe, and we just started texting afterwards, maybe the best thing is for him to take some time.
Yeah.
I get that he wants to get back in there. He's going to play against New Jersey. But take some time. We're in no rush. Right, so Lafferty's goes into that spot for Tavares, or sorry, not yeah. On the second line.
On the second line.
Let's see what he can do. You know, we got some depth, as you said, Kev. We've got some time. Look, we're 6-4 in our last 10. That's not great, but Tampa is 2-5-3 over that. It's now more than ever we're locked into that matchup. So there's time to mix and match. I actually liked that he moved Bunting down to the third line, and he moved O'Reilly down before he got hurt, just to see. To see. I can't say I'm thrilled with playing 7 defensemen, but at least you get the guys in, right? You get Shen in, you get Gustafsson in.
Yeah.
Boy, Leaf Twitter is all a Twitter about Luke Shen because he hits, right? Well, and then so they played him with Riley. Problem solved, right? Is it, though? Is he going to play 20 minutes a game? I don't know. He couldn't play 20 minutes a game in Tampa, and their runs, he was like 12, 13. Even in Vancouver this year, he didn't play that much. I don't know. I think I don't think that we're all settled there. I was surprised that Timothy Liljegren was the guy that came out. I think he's played really well this year.
So do I.
Those 2 games, and they apparently wasn't injury related. Well, now he's back in against New Jersey, so that's good. And then I'll leave you with this. Devo, you said right off the top, 3 goaltenders in 3 games. I don't know about you guys. I was pretty surprised to see Joe Wall. Matt Murray tweaks his ankle in a pregame warm-up, and he misses 17 games. And he's coming, but he's not there. It was great to see him out and playing against Vancouver. But by no means is our crease settled, right? Samsonov had been great. He was leaky against Edmonton. Joe Wall was the best of the 3 of them. Right?
Yeah, he was pretty well. Murray was pretty good,
not
but yeah,
settled, fellas.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fair. I'm going to do something I don't generally like to do, and that's I'm going to disagree a little bit with what Coach just said there. I don't like to do it, particularly in light that he is a championship coach and riding a pretty hot line. My issue is moving 90 down to the third line. It's a moot point at this point right now, but we saw it the other night before he got sent down when he was playing on the third. That second line got hemmed in, and then they got caved in. And we saw that a bunch last year. And we saw it last year in the playoffs, and quite frankly, that was the difference in the series against Tampa. What I liked about bringing O'Reilly in, KD, you made this point back around Christmas time when his name somehow came up. And you said, listen, if we bring him in and move Tavares to the left wing, not only do we have an offensive juggernaut there, we also have like a stout defensive line, and it's going to be very hard for any team to be able to roll over any of our first 2 lines. So, listen, it's in a blender. They're blending it up. But personally, I don't think it helps the team come playoff time to have 90 sitting on the third line. I really don't.
I would say this, Devo. That performance in Vancouver by that line should be ample evidence that we never do that again, and he goes back on that line. So maybe it was good.
Yeah,
You're right. Okay, fair. I can accept that. The other thing I want to say, Samsonov's been, more or less fantastic. A bit of a tough game the other night in Edmonton. I thought Murray's performance was such that, when you see one, not two, but 4 2-on-0s in one game, you're really hanging your goaltender who's just back from injury out to dry, and then 2 on the power play. I mean, come on, that is not a nice way to welcome him back. Other than that, he had a pretty good game. His numbers did not really dictate how that game went for him. I thought he deserved a much better outcome.
Sure.
All right, now that the dust is settled on the trade deadline, it's a good time to take a step back, analyze everything that's gone down. Obviously, we've got a lot of D. We got some injuries up front, so they're going to start moving guys around. Every Eastern contender really made some big moves, maybe except for Carolina. Coach, what are your thoughts? Where do the teams all stack up now, and where do you think the Leafs actually stack up against this powerhouse Eastern Conference?
Yeah, I think the Leafs closed the gap with Tampa a little bit. Or if you think the Leafs are the favorite, they widened the gap. I don't think anybody who's watched any hockey in April or May thinks that the Leafs are the favorite. But if you do, it's wider. I think Boston got as stronger than anybody. It's an embarrassment of riches in Boston.
Yeah.
But I think, turning the attention to the Leafs, that I know he's hurt, but that trade with St. Louis is a home run. I really like Achari and Ryan O'Reilly. He'll still be good. He'll still be a playoff performer. I got no problem with that. I'd like Jake McCabe. I still think he or Brody ends up with Riley, although they're stubbornly playing Brody and McCabe together as like a shutdown pair. Hey, I don't mind that. What the hell? We got 20 games left. Let's see if they could be Muzzin and Hall from 3 years ago. Let's see. But I think, I like his game. Hey, pretty nice of him to step in there for Tavares. 88 wasn't doing that. Nylander went in there and said, Mr. Myers, you shouldn't have done that to my captain. And someone else going to talk to you about that right now. So
he said something in Swedish, and then we saw that amazing edge work of his.
Yeah. I would say, though, the jury's still out for me on Lafferty. We'll see. Now he's got a bigger role. Let's see what he does. I don't see Gustafsson in the playoff lineup. He had a bit of a rough start. But he's been solid. I mean, he's no worse than Sandin. That's fine.
No worse.
So, look, Luke Shen has been good. As I said before, he's not playing 20 minutes. So he's your third-pair guy, right? So I think if you have Giordano and Shen as your third, that's a rock-solid third pair. And to me, the question then becomes, who's in the top 4? Is it Liljegren or is it Hall? And we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I think they have Hall ahead of Liljegren based on the last 2 games, but now Liljegren's in. I loved his comments today at practice. He said, hey, there's a lot of D here. When you're in, you got to make an impression if you want to keep playing. I like his attitude. We'll see where it goes.
That's right.
I wish they had addressed goaltending. I did say I hope they would address goaltending. Obviously, there wasn't a deal there. I'm nervous still, guys. But, overall, I think it was a good deadline.
Yeah, sure. KD, what do you think of the moves?
I think the moves are all fine. I would say, if anything, we might have too many D. It's one thing if you had one big name. If you look what Ottawa did, they brought in the big name. Everyone moves down. There's no questions. It seems like, the one thing I would worry about is if you have a bit of a defense controversy, if you will, trying to figure out the different variation and combinations. I certainly would like over the next 10 games them to sort out the hierarchy of what we have on D and to figure out top 3 guys. And I think it's pretty safe to say it's going to be Riley, McCabe, and Brody, and you're going to figure out some combination with that 3 to make the top pair. And then from there, you roll it down. I actually am slightly different than Coach. I actually might have Shen down playing with either Hall and Lilligren down at the bottom, and I might put the old Calgary boys together at number 2 if you had McCabe play with Riley and have Brody play with Giordano. But I'm happy with that, and it's nice to have depth. Like we're now talking now I'm complaining that we have too many D, and a month and a half ago I was complaining we didn't have enough. So it's a nice problem to have, and it's going to be tricky on forward now with these injuries. Just trying to get it right. But I've said it, and I'll say it again. Like I want to stack the top 2, and then figure out what we have with the guys like Achari maybe and Lafferty. I feel comfortable in camp. I feel comfortable we can cobble together the bottom 6 to be able to play, and I think we create the juggernaut at 1 and 2 and force teams to react to them rather than the other way around. And then at the end of the day, there's one Vasilevsky who plays in the league. Like there's one of them, and we have to play him in the first round. And do we have the goalie to outperform him? No, we just have to have the goalie to make it close, and then hope that your 1-2 does the job. Your special teams does it. A little nervous with the Canucks game, but special teams come around, and let's hope that Matthews is 2022 Matthews, and comes out and he's energized in the playoffs, and that's the difference.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Can I just say it, guys? Can we please now get Giordano some rest?
Yeah.
I mean, are there not enough players to maybe give him a couple nights off? I know he doesn't want to do it. I guarantee he'll be furious if he has to sit a night up in the front in the press box. But that's a good thing. Gosh, it would be just miserable if we start going, hey, look how deep we are, and then 3 weeks later we're back on a podcast going, oh my God, who are we going to call up? Is Victor Mete healthy? They gotta make sure they rest some of these guys for a solid run. It's not going to make much of a difference in the standings.
Hey, Devo, I thought we weren't allowed to use bad language on this thing. Why you got to bring up Victor Mete?
Yeah, I guess while I'm on a roll here, I'll just go. Listen, with the roster expanded now, it gives you some flexibility. Surprised there are so many options on the back end. I think KD, you are alluding to that, but again, this is the time. This is the time Giordano finally gets take a few days off, maybe take a road trip off.
This is actually not a bad time. You play New Jersey tomorrow, then you got a bunch of days off. But it's the strategic games off are the best ones where you sit a game and you end up getting 5 days rest. So I mean that's usually I think the best time to do it. But it's I'm not an NHL coach.
I don't disagree. I kind of think Matthews should be doing it the same way as well because he's clearly not right. As a Leafs fan, I'm not surprised that the guesswork isn't paying off at this point. Having 9 guys on the back end and or bringing in having so many D available in a game and only dressing 11 forwards. It looks like the coach's favorite, Pontus, is going to be playing up at tomorrow night. Alex Steeves will also be called up for a few games. But let's be honest, folks. The Leafs have to score more than 2 goals if they're going to win the odd game here and there. And they only scored, 2 or... How many times did they score more than 2 goals in the last 4 or 5 games? I think once.
Seattle was the last one. Yeah.
Yeah. So, 4 of the last 5 games, they've scored 2 or less goals. So that's not so great. They need to get their offense firing again. And juggling the lines and putting them all in a blender, I don't think that doesn't always work. So let's talk about this. 11 forwards, 7D for the past few games. Is it sensible? Is it sustainable? We'll start with you, KD.
No, I'm not a huge fan of it. We talk about jumbling and changing. I mean, changing the lineups and throwing in a blender. I will say Pierre Engvall is playing first line for the New York Islanders at the moment, so we at least we don't have that problem. But no, I mean it's not sustainable, and it's not going to be. He's doing this purely because he needs to look at these guys. He needs to get these guys in the lineup. And I think we'll start to normalize and things when that hierarchy or the pairs start to come out. I think he'll figure out what he wants to do there, and then you get the young guys, Pontus back and Steves. I think that'll be good. and then you just hopefully you manage it well and you don't have any major injuries, and you start to build into the playoffs. So this is, we know who we're playing. Like it's that's that. I think that's one of the problems. You're gonna have to go through bad periods and stretches when you look down the horizon and you know exactly where you're going. It's just one of those. It's one of those things. So that's, I think, where they are right now, and hopefully they can figure a way to get energized, and we'll get back to 12-6, and that'll be the way it goes.
Yeah, Coach, what do you think?
I don't like 11-7, but I'll tell you what. There's a couple of examples of it working, and I think with a healthy forward group here, it could work here. So the examples are Tampa in the playoffs. Both years they won, and also a little bit last year when they got to the final. They're happy going with 7D. How about right now? Edmonton goes 11 forward, 7D. They've got two absolute studs up front, and they're playing the heck out of them because they can play those kind of minutes, right? And it's working for them. McDavid is unbelievable. He scored his 53rd tonight. Unbelievable what a season he's having. So
fantastic.
I could see that working here. We've got a couple of studs, too, in Matthews and Marner. However, Marner isn't the biggest guy. I don't know that you want to wear him down. We need him in the playoffs. And Matthews isn't right. He's not right.
Yep.
We talked about it already on this thing. So could you get those guys 4 or 5 more shifts each and go with 11? You could. You could mix and match it, and you could be fine. It's not the right time for it now, nor do you really need to put those guys under stress. I could see maybe this in a playoff series like Tampa has done, but there's no real reason for it now, especially now that the rosters have expanded. You can bring up Pontus and whoever else you want. I bet you Bobby McMahon makes his way up. So,
Sure.
No need. The one drawback is there are 9D, really 8 that are going to play. I don't think Timmins will play. So 7 gets most of them dressed, I guess. But, I'm not a big fan. And I don't think we want to tax Matthews or Marner until we need to.
Yeah.
Speaking about being a big fan, Keefe hasn't been a very big fan of bunting of late. And he's been dropping like a stone in the lineup. Something to watch. I think tomorrow night he'll be on the 4th line if unless he somehow manages to drop out of the lineup by then. But I think with the injuries, he's probably pretty safe.
Hey, fellas,
well, there you have it,
be
folks.
careful.
Yeah, go.
Scarborough's coming. It's a full-out revolt if he stays on that 4th line. We already got rid of Simmons.
It's true. There you have it, folks. Just 19 games left to sort everything out before we start getting ready for Tampa. No matter how it shakes out, we're going to have you covered. We're going to have you covered right here on the OZone.